Let's go back in time to the year 2003. It was a world of flip phones and the screech of dial-up internet. But it was also the year for two of the most unbelievable and frankly bizarre crimes of our time. In one corner of the globe, you had a team of brilliant thieves pulling off a heist that seemed impossible. And in the other, a pizza delivery guy walking into a bank with a live bomb locked around his neck. It's a wild tale, so let's get right into it.
So here's our game plan. We're going to set the scene in 2003, then take a deep dive into each of these heists. First, the big one in Antwerp, then the shocking one in Erie, Pennsylvania. We'll unpack the masterminds, what made them tick, and wrap it all up by figuring out what these two completely different stories tell us about the nature of crime itself.
All right, let's set the stage. The year is 2003.
You know, in the world of high-stakes crime, 2003 was a fascinating moment. It was this bizarre intersection where meticulous, almost artistic criminal planning slammed head-on into just unimaginable, deadly chaos. So let me introduce you to our two case studies. On one hand, you've got the Antwerp diamond heist. This was a crime of pure, breathtaking ambition and skill. And on the other hand, we have the pizza bomber case, a story that just spirals into madness and ends in this horrific, very public tragedy. Two heists, same year, but wow, two completely different worlds of criminal thinking. Okay, let's dive into our first case. We're heading to Belgium for what many people call the heist of the century, a seemingly perfect crime put together by a guy named Leonardo Notarbartolo and his crew. Now, you gotta understand, their target was no joke. The Antwerp Diamond Center's vault was a fortress. It was buried 2 floors underground, had a combination lock with 100 million possible combos, Doppler radar, heat detectors, even a seismic sensor that could feel the tiniest vibration. I mean, this thing was designed to be absolutely positively foolproof. So, how in the world did they beat it? Well, that's the truly amazing part. They didn't use explosions or high-tech gadgets. They used pure, old-fashioned cleverness. Notarbartolo posed as a diamond merchant for months, using a sneaky camera pen to scope out the vault. They even built a full-scale replica of it just to practice. And get this, they used a simple can of hairspray to blind an infrared sensor. It was low-tech genius. And the score? Massive. We're talking over $100 million in jewels, gold, you name it. They just vanished into the night. And to this day, almost none of it has ever been found. It's one of the largest robberies in history, for sure. But wait, it gets even weirder. Years later, Notarbartolo comes out and says the real value was way lower, and that the whole heist was actually an inside job set up for a massive insurance payout. Whether that's true or not, who knows, but it adds another wild layer to the whole story. So after all that brilliant planning, what finally brought them down? It wasn't some high-tech forensic team. It was a half-eaten sandwich. Seriously, one of the crew members panicked after the heist, and instead of burning their trash like they were supposed to, he just dumped it. A local found the bag, and inside, police found a receipt that linked Notarbartolo right back to the scene of the crime. Unbelievable. Okay, let's take a deep breath, because we are about to do a complete 180. We're leaving the world of calculated greed and diving headfirst into a story of chilling, deadly chaos. This is the story of Brian Wells, the pizza bomber. This timeline is just the stuff of nightmares. In less than 2 hours, a pizza delivery guy named Brian Wells goes from dropping off an order to robbing a bank with a bomb clamped to his neck. The police catch up with him, but minutes, literally minutes, before the bomb squad can get there, the device explodes. And it all happened on live television. In his car, police found 9 pages of these frantic, handwritten instructions. It was a twisted scavenger hunt, promising that if he finished all the tasks in time, he'd get the keys to unlock the bomb. But the notes ended with that terrifying command. And as investigators later found out, the whole thing was a cruel setup. It was impossible to finish in time. So this became the burning question, right? The one that haunted his family and the police for years. Was Brian Wells a completely innocent victim, a guy just grabbed at gunpoint and forced into this nightmare? Or was he somehow in on the plan, thinking the bomb was a fake, only to be betrayed by his partners in crime? As the FBI started to unravel this thing, the truth they uncovered was more bizarre and more complex than anyone could have possibly imagined. It all led back to this small, very dysfunctional group of people they called fractured intellectuals. And at the center of this whole twisted web
was a woman named Marjorie Dial Armstrong. She had a genius-level IQ, but also a long and documented history of severe mental illness and a suspicious number of dead boyfriends in her past. She was the volatile, unpredictable mastermind.
So what was the point of all this madness? Why the bomb, the scavenger hunt? Well, the motive was just as convoluted as the crime itself. Marjorie wanted $250,000 from the bank heist to pay a hitman to kill her own father because she thought he was spending her inheritance. The whole pizza bomber plot was just a step in a much, much darker plan.
So let's pause for a second. We've got two completely different heists. One is all logic and precision. The other is pure madness and malice. So how do we even begin to understand what drives people to these extremes? Well, it turns out the FBI actually has a framework for this, and it gives us a really powerful way to look at it. This quote right here from an FBI bulletin, it really hits the nail on the head. It basically says that explosives are tools for people who feel powerless. It's a way to level the playing field, to give one person the destructive force of an entire army. So, motivator number one is what the FBI calls power disparity. It's a fancy term, but it just means using a bomb as the great equalizer when you feel like you're up against a massive system you can't possibly beat, like a government or a powerful industry. Motivator number two is, well, it's a lot simpler and a lot darker. It's just malice, the pure, evil desire to hurt someone, to cause pain and suffering, usually because of a personal grudge. And the third factor that can come into play is mental illness. This is when a person's mental state is so impaired that it can fundamentally warp their sense of reality and their ability to know right from wrong. And this is where it all just clicks into place, right? The Antwerp heist, that's almost a pure case of power disparity. Notarbartolo's crew were thieves, yeah, but in their minds, they were taking on the giant, invincible diamond industry. But the pizza bomber case? Oh man, that was a toxic cocktail of malice and mental illness, all wrapped up in the mind of Marjorie Dial Armstrong. Which brings us to our final takeaway. When you look at these two incredible crimes from the very same year side by side, you get this fascinating glimpse into the two very different faces of extreme crime. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? When we think of these shocking, headline-grabbing crimes, what's the true face behind them? Is it a cold, logical master plan driven by calculated greed? Or is it born from a fractured, chaotic mind, driven by impulses that most of us can't even begin to comprehend? The wild events of 2003 seem to say it can be both, and you have to wonder which one is truly more frightening.